17 professional reviewers reviewed the same laptop. 4 of them gave it a perfect score. 2 of them gave it a 70. That is a 30-point spread on a scale of 0 to 100. That means the best reviewer and the worst reviewer are describing what amounts to 2 different laptops. Same product, same week, same price tag, north of $1,700. So who is right? This is exactly what the Nerd Verdict is here to sort out. I'm JC and this is Sounds Nerdy, and we're breaking down the Asus Zenbook A16 2026 edition. But before we dive deep into all that information, if you're new to this channel and enjoy staying up to date with the latest review scores, do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and hit that like button. All right, let's dive into this. Here's what you're getting. Snapdragon X2 Elite Extreme processor, Qualcomm's flagship ARM chip for 2026, 16-inch 3K OLED display, 120Hz refresh rate, 500 nits brightness, 1.2 kilograms, let that sink in, 1.2 kilograms for a 16-inch laptop. Most 16-inch machines weigh north of 1.8 kilograms. This thing is lighter than a lot of 14-inch laptops. The battery is a 70 watt-hour cell, 21 plus hours claimed for multitasking, 1 terabyte of SSD RAM, 16 gigabyte base, up to 48 gigabytes of RAM on higher configs. Make use of put it this way. This laptop shouldn't exist in the way it does. 18 cores CPU, 3K display, 1.2 kilograms, yet here we are. On paper, this is a serious machine. Before we get into what the reviewers love, I want to address the main thing that drove the verdict to polarizing right out of the gate, because it explains almost everything about the score gap. The Zenbook A16 is being compared to a MacBook Air, and that comparison is doing damage to its scores. Expert reviews gave it a 100 and said, in their exact framing, that in every important quantifiable way, this is a better choice for the majority of laptop users than the recently updated MacBook Air 15. Windows Central echoed that, giving it a 100, saying Asus is answering Apple without resorting to ridiculous pricing. Time Hardware gave it a 70. Their main problems: the chassis feels cheap for the price, and the battery life does not deliver what you would expect from an ARM machine. Here's the tension. When reviewers are measuring the Zenbook on its own terms as a Windows Ultra Portable, they gave it a 100. When reviewers held it up against the MacBook Air and asked whether it closes the gap, battery life, build quality, software maturity, landed it at a 70. Both sets of reviewers are accurate. They're just answering different questions. Keep that in your head as we continue to go through the rest of this. With that context locked in, here is what had reviewers fired up. First, the weight to screen size ratio. There is no real competition here. Engadget called it the lightest 16-inch ultra portable that they have ever tested. Make Use Of said that it should not exist in the way it does. Trusted reviewers called it one of the most complete ultrabooks you can purchase. When reviewers who test dozens of machines a year are reaching for words like that, it means something. Second, the display. The 3K OLED at 120Hz with 500 nits landed almost universally. Notebook Check called it great. Ultrabook Review praised the combination of resolution and panel quality. No major display complaints across 17 reviews. This is a clean sweep on a laptop in this category. Third, the Snapdragon X2 Elite Extreme application and AI performance. CNET called it stellar for both AI and application workloads. IT Pro said it's an impressive debut for Qualcomm's platform. Gizmodo said it asked whether you could accept small chip-based concessions for this kind of lightweight capable machine, and largely concluded those concessions are worth it. Fourth, and this one is the important one, the ergonomics. T3 called it a sleek beauty. Ultrabook Review praised the keyboard. Trusted reviews highlighted the combination of build and endurance. For a machine that's going to be in your bag every day, those details matter. All right, here's the honest part, the battery life. Times Hardware flagged it directly. The Zenbook A16 does not last long enough on a charge. Tom's Guide echoed this independently. Here's why that matters for this laptop. ARM processors are supposed to be efficient machines. Snapdragon on MacBook level efficiency is the whole pitch. If the Zenbook A16 is not delivering exceptional battery life with a Snapdragon chip, this is a genuine gap against the machine it is trying to displace. The chassis quality, Tom's Hardware specifically called it cheap feeling for the price. At $19.99, you're in MacBook Air territory. At that price point, build quality is not a minor footnote. It is a deciding factor for a lot of buyers. Software compatibility. Verge put it cleanly, with proper game support and continued software maturity, this could one day be the MacBook Air killer it's positioned to be. That phrase, one day, is doing a lot of work. ARM on Windows has made enormous strides. It is not fully there. Niche software, games specifically, still hit compatibility issues. And the price gap between configurations, the base model is around $1,700. The premium configuration with Extreme chip and 48 gigabytes of RAM pushes $19.99. The viewer experience and the score depends heavily on which version they tested and whether the price made sense to them. Now, here's a section I love doing. For publications, Stuff, IT Pro, Windows Central, Expert Reviews gave the Zenbook A16 a perfect 100. Expert Reviews went the furthest. They said in every important quantifiable way, this is a better choice for the majority of laptop users than the MacBook Air 15. That is a remarkable statement. Tom's Hardware gave it a 70. Tom's Guide gave it a 70. Two of the most read laptop review sites on the internet arriving at the same number independently. A 30-point gap, same product. Here's what's happening. The 100 scorers were measuring the Zenbook against the field of 16-inch Windows laptops. In that comparison, it wins almost every category. Lightest by a wide margin, best OLED display, best ARM chip performance. From that framing, 100 is defensible. Tom's Hardware and Tom's Guide were measuring it as a MacBook Air alternative, which is how Asus is marketing it. So that framing is fair. And on that test, the battery life disappoints. The chassis does not feel premium at that price, and software compatibility still has a lot of work to do. This is exactly what polarizing means and why aggregated scores matter. One review tells you one reviewer's benchmark. 17 reviews tell you the experience fundamentally depends on what you are measuring and what you are comparing it against. The 86.4 is the honest average. The 30-point gap tells you the full story. Let me be direct here because this is the part that actually matters. If you are a Windows power user who needs the lightest 16-inch machine available, you work in demanding applications, you travel constantly, and you want an OLED display at this weight class, this is almost certainly your best option right now. 17 out of 17 reviewers recommended it. That is not noise. Buy it, ideally at the $16.99 configuration. If you are cross-shopping with the MacBook Air, stop and ask yourself one question. Do you need Windows? If the answer is yes, the Zenbook A16 is a serious contender. If the answer is no, or if software compatibility is a concern, the MacBook Air still has the more mature software ecosystem and more established battery reputation. The Zenbook is closing the gap, but it has not closed it yet. If you are a gamer looking at this as a primary gaming machine, it is not that. The Qualcomm Adreno GPU is not a gaming chip. The ROG Zephyrus Z16 at 95 on our Nerd Verdict is a better call at higher spin. And if battery life is your single most important criterion, test this before committing. The claimed 21 plus hours covers light multitasking. The real world numbers from Tom's Hardware and Tom's Guide suggest the experience under load is more modest than ARM machines typically deliver. The Nerd Verdict is 86.4 out of 100 from 17 reviewers. Polarizing verdict, 30-point spread, but every single reviewer recommended it. Here's the one-line version. Asus built the lightest 16-inch Windows laptop you can buy and loaded it with the best ARM chip available. If you're a Windows Power user, this is as good as it gets at this weight. If you are comparing it to a MacBook Air, read Tom's hardware review and then decide. Full breakdown with every one of the 17 reviews, all the source links, and the live consensus evolution chart is at soundsnerdy.com. Link is in the description. And if you want every flagship this month ranked by 50+ reviewers in one PDF, grab the Nerd Verdict Starter Pack, also link in the description. Free, no spam, just the data. So here's my question for you. Does the polarizing badge change how you feel about a product, or does the average score tell you everything you need? Drop down in the comment section and let me know. And if you enjoy these type of videos and want to stay up to date with the latest review scores for gadgets, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and drop a like if you like this video. And don't forget, every Tuesday and Friday, Nerd Verdicts drop. And until the next video, guys, stay nerdy.